Good morning to all of you. Today's topic that is the xeric, hydric, and mesic adaptations. You know the adaptations which are induced by the water factor or the water which is responsible for causing the adaptations or the availability of the water in these three types. These are the xeric adaptations, hydric adaptations, and mesic adaptations. The plants growing under the xeric environmental conditions are called as xerophytes. And the adaptations present in these plants are known as the xeric adaptations or xerophytic adaptations. The term xeric is used for the environment which shows the following characters, that is the low water content, that is the available water available to the plants is very less than the requirements. Another factor that is the high temperature and low moisture in the atmosphere, low rainfall, and hot, dry, windy climate. A rapid percolation of the water in the soil with shifting soil surface, all such conditions these are responsible for drought. Morphological adaptations of xerophytes, particularly when we observe the roots. These are the well-developed one, very extensive and penetrate up to a 20 meters depth. Most of the roots, these are the tap roots. Extensive branching with root caps and root hairs are present. Present in the stem, particularly the stem, it is a slow-growing, profusely branched, hardwoody, rigid, stunted, and covered with a corky layer to reduce the water loss. Sometimes the stem becomes underground saccharum, while it becomes a fleshy, flattened, leafy, spiny, particularly in Apuntia. The stem is covered with spines and a waxy coating. After completion of root as well as the stem modifications, the another part which is very important in a xerophytic plants, that is the leaves. These are the reduced one, short lived, absent, modified into a spines. The second part, that is the leaf lamina, may be a long, narrow, needle like, particularly in spinous, or in some plants it is divided into a many leaf like leaflets like acacia. The leaves may be a thick, tough, leathery, shining, particularly in nerium. In many grasses, the leaves these are maybe a rolled or folded to reduce the respiration. In some plants, the leaves these are modified into a stipules, particularly in Ziziphus as well as in the Caparis. The leaves these are usually small and fall off during the prolonged dry conditions. The another important thing, particularly in xerophytes, the reproduction which is occurred, it is very important one. Particularly in xerophytes, the sexual reproduction which is the common, and in some forms, the reproduction which is occurred through a vegetative part. That means the vegetative in some cacti, these are reproduced by a dominant. Anatomical adaptations, particularly in the stem part, while you observe the stem, the outer part which is the thick cuticle, which is a well developed one, in some plants it produces the thick core. Some succulents shows the water storage tissues. In such a plants, particularly in the stem, the epidermis which is the thick walled one, lignified or chitinized one. The hypodermis which is the sclerenchymatous, which protects the inner tissues from the sunlight and gives a mechanical support. The vascular tissues, these are the well developed one and clarified, differentiated. The lignin deposited. The secondary tissues, these are also well developed one. Mechanical tissue, bark is well developed one. Cells, these are the relatively small and are with a vacuoles. Anatomical adaptations in the xerophytes, particularly the root part, when we observe, we take the section, these roots, these are covered with root hairs and root caps. They shows the thick cuticle and thick cords. The role of that thick cuticle and thick cord to protect the inner tissues from the hard and dry hot soil. In such a roots, the mechanical and conductive tissues, these are also well developed one. Anatomical adaptations in the leaves. The leaves these are heavily chitinized or with a waxy coating. The epidermis, while you observe the epidermis, that epidermis which is the multilayered, particularly in nerium, such type of the multilayered epidermis is observed. While you concentrate on the hypodermis, that hypodermis which is also a multilayered one, and that hypodermis, particularly it is a made up of sclerenchymatous tissue, particularly in pinus, such type of the sclerenchymatous tissue which is observed one to develop the multilayered hypodermis. While you concentrate on the mesophyll, that mesophyll which is the well differentiated into a palisade tissue and spongy parenchyma one. While you observe the stomata, these stomatas are present only on a lower epidermis, that is the peculiar characteristic of the xerophyte. On upper epidermis, such type of the stomatas, these are absent. Particularly in Nerium, such type of the condition is seen. Cycus, also such type of the sunken stomatas are also observed one. In such a sunken stomata, there is a presence of stomatal hairs as well as the trichomes to check the transpiration rate. Physiological adaptations in xerophytes. In such a plants, the osmotic pressure, which is the high one, and such a osmotic pressure, it helps the plants to maintain the turgidity during the drought. The rate of transpiration is also always high one, but in actual loss of water from the plant body, which is a very less, to maintain the water balance in such a plants, the stomatas are particularly opens during the night period, that is the peculiar characteristic of that xerophytic plants. The respiration which is occurs particularly in such a plants during the night period, in a day period that stomatas these are closed one and the respiration which is checked one. The photosynthetic products particularly in the xerophytic plants, these are the organic acids, and most of the plants they follow a crassulian acid metabolism pathway. In some plants the inward curling of the leaves occurs to minimize the loss of water from the plant body. It is called as hydrostasis, particularly in poison, such type of the adaptation.